ما طاولتها سماء ومحيا كالشمس منك مضيء أسفرت عنه ليلة غراء ليلة المولد التي كانت للدين فرحا بها وازدهاء.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community. The house of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the ISBCC still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul, this is the time where our generosity is magnified, and you never know, we all never know if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
يا سماء ما طاولتها سماء ومحيا كالشمس منك مضيء أسفرت عنه ليلة غراء ليلة المولد التي كانت للدين فرحا بها وازدهاء.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان نضاختان فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما فاكهة فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان نضاختان فيهما عينان نضاختان فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن خيرات حسان فيهن خيرات حسان فيهن حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن خيرات حسان فيهن خيرات حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان حور مقصورات في الخيام حور مقصورات في الخيام حور مقصورات في الخيام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام. تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام. إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام. إذا وقعت الواقعة إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة. إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا. إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثا إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثا فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة والسابقون السابقون والسابقون السابقون والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Cuddler, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين متكئين عليها متقابلين يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون وفاكهة مما يتخيرون وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون جزاء بما كانوا يعملون لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين في سدر مخضود وطلح منضود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة صدق الله العظيم. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان من يعز ويذل سبحان من يفقر ويغني سبحان من يسعد ويشقي سبحانك يا الله. اللهم اجعلنا يا مولانا في شهرنا هذا وفي ليلتنا هذه من عتقائك من النار واجعلنا يا مولانا من المقبولين. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم ارزقنا الإخلاص في الدعوات والقبول في الطاعات والشكر عند الخيرات، والخشوع في الصلوات، والعفو عند العثرات، والصفح عن الزلات، والصبر عند الأزمات، والحمد عند البركات، والتدبر عند الآيات، والفرج عند الكربات، والبشرى عند الممات. اللهم إنا نسألك البشرى عند الممات، والعصمة عند الشبهات، والثبات عند المنكرات، والحسنى عند الدرجات. اللهم إنا نسألك الحجة البالغة، والخلة الصافية، والدرجة العالية الرفيعة. نسألك الصحبة الصالحة. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنه. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنه. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عن آبائنا، واعف عن أمهاتنا، واعف عن أزواجنا، واعف عن أولادنا، واعف عن إخواننا، واعف عنا جميعا يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم بلغنا ليلة القدر. اللهم ارزقنا عفوها، وارزقنا عتقها، وارزقنا برها، وارزقنا قيامها، وارزقنا شفاعتها يا أكرم الأكرمين، يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم بلغنا ليلة القدر، وبتبلغنا بها الفردوس الأعلى، أن نكون مع سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه. اللهم آمين.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Qadr, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
توارى وتأوهي ملأ الفجاج أوارى كسفينة في بطن بحر قد جرت وفادها للسير يلهب نارا النبي وسيلة فهو الذي أضحى في دج العمى مختارا. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء. علي في الهوى عار إذا من علي في الهوى عار إذا من سير المتيم بالليل وهام هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السهاد. هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السهاد. هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السهاد. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء. بحب أحمد عالي المقام بحب أحمد عالي المقام هو محمد هدي الأنام. هو محمد هدي الأنام. هو محمد هدي الأنام. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء. علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهام. علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهام. يرقب الأرواح إن هبت صباها. يرقب الأرواح إن هبت صباها. ذاب الشوق ذاب في هوى الأحباب. ذاب الشوق ذاب في هوى الأحباب. ذاب الشوق ذاب في خير العباد. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيب الوياء. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيب الوياء. علي في الهوى عار إذا علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهام. هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السجاد. هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السجاد. هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السجاد. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيب الوياء. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيب الوياء. أليف الغرام واستحلى الكلام فهامت به أطيب الويا فهمت به أطيب الويا فهمت به أطيب الويا كيف ترقى رقيك الأنبياء يا سماء ما غارتها سماء ومحيا كالشمس منك مضيء أسفرت عنه ليلة غراء ليلة المولد التي كانت للدين فرحا بها وازدهاء يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا نبينا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه يا خير مولود يا نبي
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Qadr, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
الحمد
السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون والذي خلقكم من طين ثم قضى أجلا وأجل مسمى عنده ثم أنتم تمترون وهو الله في السماوات وفي الأرض يعلم سركم وجهركم ويعلم ما تكسبون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين فقد كذبوا بالحق لما جاءهم فسوف يأتيهم أنباء ما كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا من قبلهم من قرن مكناهم في الأرض ما لم نمكن لكم وأرسلنا السماء عليهم مدرارا وجعلنا الأنهار تجري من تحتهم فأهلكناهم بذنوبهم وأنشأنا من بعدهم قرنا آخرين ولو نزلنا عليك كتابا في قرطاس فلمسوه بأيديهم لقال الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا سحر مبين وقالوا لولا أنزل عليه ملك ولو أنزلنا ملكا لقضي الأمر ثم لا ينظرون ولو جعلناه ملكا لجعلناه رجلا وللبسنا عليهم ما يلبسون ولقد استهزئ برسل من قبلك فحاق بالذين سخروا منهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون قل سيروا في الأرض ثم انظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين قل لمن ما في السماوات والأرض قل لله كتب على نفسه الرحمة ليجمعنكم إلى يوم القيامة لا ريب فيه الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون وله ما سكن في الليل والنهار وهو السميع العليم قل أغير الله أتخذ وليا فاطر السماوات والأرض وهو يطعم ولا يطعم قل إني أمرت أن أكون أول من أسلم ولا تكونن من المشركين قل إني أخاف إن عصيت ربي عذاب يوم عظيم من يصرف عنه الفوز المبين وإن يمسسك الله بضر فلا كاشف له إلا هو وإن يمسسك بخير فهو على كل شيء قدير وهو القاهر فوق عباده وهو الحكيم الخبير قل أي شيء أكبر شهادة قل الله شهيد بيني وبينكم وأوحي إلي هذا القرآن لأنذركم به ومن بلغ أئنكم لتشهدون أن مع الله آلهة أخرى قل لا أشهد قل إنما هو إله واحد وإنني بريء مما تشركون الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بآياته إنه لا يفلح الظالمون ويوم نحشرهم جميعا ثم نقول للذين أشركوا أين شركاؤكم الذين كنتم تزعمون ثم لم تكن فتنتهم إلا أن قالوا والله ربنا ما كنا مشركين انظر كيف كذبوا على أنفسهم وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون ومنهم من يستمع إليك وجعلنا على قلوبهم أكنة أن يفقهوا وفي آذانهم وقرا وإن يروا كل آية لا يؤمنوا بها حتى إذا جاءوك يجادلونك يقول الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا أساطير الأولين وهم ينهون عنه وينهون عنه وإن يريدون إلا أنفسهم وما يشعرون ولو ترى إذ وقفوا على النار فقالوا يا ليتنا نرد ولا نكذب بآيات ربنا ونكون من المؤمنين بل بدا لهم ما كانوا يخفون من قبل ولو ردوا لعادوا لما نهوا عنه إنهم لكاذبون وقالوا طائف وقفوا على ربهم قال أليس هذا بالحق قالوا بلى وربنا قال فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكفرون قد خسر الذين كذبوا بلقاء الله حتى إذا جاءتهم الساعة بغتة قالوا قالوا يا حسرتنا على ما فرطنا فيها وهم يحملون أوزارهم على ظهورهم ألا ساء ما يزرون قد خسر الذين كذبوا بلقاء الله حتى إذا جاءتهم الساعة بغتة قالوا يا حسرتنا على ما فرطنا فيها وهم يحملون أوزارهم على ظهورهم ألا ساء ما يزرون وما الحياة الدنيا إلا لعب وللدار الآخرة خير للذين يتقون أفلا تعقلون قد نعلم إنه لا يحزنك الذي يقولون فإنهم لا يكذبونك ولكن الظالمين بآيات الله يجحدون ولقد كذبت رسل من قبلك فصبروا على ما كذبوا وأوذوا حتى أتاهم نصرنا ولا مبدل لكلمات الله ولقد جاءك من نبأ المرسلين وإن كان كبر عليك إعراضهم فإن استطعت أن تبتغي نفقا في الأرض أو سلما في السماء فإن استطعت أن تبتغي نفقا في الأرض أو سلما في السماء فتأتيهم بآية ولو شاء الله لجمعهم على الهدى فلا تكونن من الجاهلين صدق الله العظيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا صرفت أبصارهم تلقاء أصحاب النار قالوا ربنا لا تجعلنا مع القوم الظالمين ونادى أصحاب الأعراف رجالا يعرفونهم بسيماهم قالوا ما أغنى عنكم جمعكم وما كنتم تستكبرون هؤلاء الذين أقسمتم لا ينالهم الله برحمة ادخلوا الجنة لا خوف عليكم ولا وأنتم تحزنون ونادى أصحاب النار أصحاب الجنة أن أفيضوا علينا من الماء أو مما رزقكم الله قالوا إن الله حرمهما على الكافرين الذين اتخذوا دينهم لهوا ولعبا الدنيا فاليوم ننساهم كما نسوا لقاء يومهم هذا وما كانوا بآياتنا يجحدون ولقد جئناهم بكتاب فصلناه على علم هدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون هل ينظرون إلا تأويله يوم يأتي تأويله يقول الذين نسوه من قبل قد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق فهل لنا من شفعاء فيشفعوا لنا أو نرد فنعمل غير الذي كنا نعمل قد خسروا أنفسهم وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش يغشي الليل النهار يطلبه حثيثا والشمس والقمر والنجوم مسخرات بأمره ألا له الخلق والأمر تبارك الله رب العالمين ادعوا ربكم تضرعا وخفية إنه لا يحب المعتدين ولا تفسدوا في الأرض بعد إصلاحها وادعوه خوفا وطمعا إن رحمة الله قريب من المحسنين وهو الذي يرسل الرياح بشرا بين يدي رحمته حتى إذا أقلت سحابا ثقالا سقناه لبلد ميت فأنزلنا به الماء فأخرجنا به من كل الثمرات كذلك نخرج الموتى لعلكم تذكرون والبلد الطيب يخرج نباته بإذن ربه والذي خبث لا يخرج إلا نكدا كذلك نصرف الآيات لقوم يشكرون لقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه فقال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم. قال الملأ من قومه إنا لنراك في ضلال مبين. قال يا قوم ليس بي ضلالة ولكني رسول من رب العالمين أبلغكم رسالات ربي وأنصح لكم وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. أوعجبتم أن جاءكم ذكر من ربكم على رجل منكم لينذركم ولتتقوا ولعلكم ترحمون. فكذبوه فأنجيناه والذين معه في الفلك وأغرقنا الذين كذبوا بآياتنا إنهم كانوا قوما عمين. وإلى عاد أخاهم هودا قال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره أفلا تتقون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض مما يأكل الناس والأنعام حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها أتاها أمرنا ليلا أو نهارا فجعلناها حصيدا كأن لم تغن بالأمس كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يتفكرون. والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. للذين أحسنوا الحسنى وزيادة ولا يرهق وجوههم قتر ولا ذلة أولئك أصحاب الجنة هم فيها خالدون. والذين كسبوا السيئات جزاء سيئة بمثلها وتركهم ذلة ما لهم من الله من عاصم كأنما أغشيت وجوههم قطعا من الليل مظلما أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون ويوم نحشرهم جميعا ثم نقول للذين أشركوا مكانكم أنتم وشركاؤكم فزيلنا بينهم وقال شركاؤهم ما كنتم إيانا تعبدون فكفى بالله شهيدا بيننا وبينكم إن كنا عن عبادتكم لغافلين هنالك تبلو كل نفس ما أسلفت وردوا إلى الله مولاهم الحق وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون قل من يرزقكم من السماء والأرض أمن يملك السمع والأبصار ومن يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ومن يدبر الأمر فسيقولون الله فقل أفلا تتقون فذلكم الله ربكم الحق فماذا بعد الحق إلا الضلال فأنى تصرفون كذلك حقت كلمة ربك على الذين فسقوا أنهم لا يؤمنون قل هل من شركائكم من يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده قل الله يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده فأنى تؤفكون قل هل من شركائكم من يهدي إلى الحق قل الله يهدي للحق أفمن يهدي إلى الحق أحق أن يتبع أمن لا يهدي إلا أن يهدى فما لكم كيف تحكمون وما يتبع أكثرهم إلا ظنا إن الظن لا يغني من الحق شيئا إن الله عليم بما يفعلون وما كان هذا القرآن أن يفترى من دون الله ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل الكتاب لا ريب فيه من رب العالمين أم يقولون افتراه قل فأتوا بسورة مثله وادعوا من استطعتم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين بل كذبوا بما لم يحيطوا بعلمه ولما يأتهم تأويله كذلك كذب الذين من قبلهم فانظر كيف كان عاقبة الظالمين ومنهم من يؤمن به ومنهم من لا يؤمن به وربك أعلم بالمفسدين وإن كذبوك فقل لي عملي ولكم عملكم أنتم بريئون مما أعمل وأنا بريء مما تعملون ومنهم من يستمعون إليك أفأنت تسمع الصم ولو كانوا لا يعقلون ومنهم من ينظر إليك أفأنت تهدي العمي ولو كانوا لا يبصرون إن الله لا يظلم الناس شيئا ولكن الناس أنفسهم يظلمون ويوم يحشرهم كأن لم يلبثوا إلا ساعة من النهار يتعارفون بينهم قد خسر الذين كذبوا بلقاء الله وما كانوا مهتدين وإما نرينك بعض الذي نعدهم أو نتوفينك فإلينا مرجعهم ثم الله شهيد على ما يفعلون ولكل أمة رسول فإذا جاء رسولهم قضي بينهم بالقسط وهم لا يظلمون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل لا أملك لنفسي ضرا ولا نفعا إلا ما شاء الله لكل أمة أجل إذا جاء أجلهم فلا يستأخرون ساعة ولا يستقدمون قل أرأيتم إن أتاكم عذابه بياتا أو نهارا ماذا يستعجل منه المجرمون أثم إذا ما وقع آمنتم به الآن وقد كنتم به تستعجلون ثم قيل للذين ظلموا ذوقوا عذاب الخلد هل تجزون إلا بما كنتم تكسبون ويستنبئونك أحق هو قل إي وربي إنه لحق وما أنتم بمعجزين صدق الله العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون والذي خلقكم من طين ثم قضى أجله وأجل مسمى عنده ثم أنتم تمترون وهو الله في السماوات وفي الأرض يعلم سركم وجهركم ويعلم ما تكسبون وما تأتيهم من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين فقد كذبوا بالحق لما جاءهم فسوف يأتيهم أنباء ما كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا من قبلهم من قرن مكناهم في الأرض ما لم نمكن لكم وأرسلنا السماء عليهم مدرارا وجعلنا الأنهار تجري من تحتهم فأهلكناهم بذنوبهم وأنشأنا من بعدهم قرنا آخرين ولو نزلنا عليك كتابا في قرطاس فلمسوه بأيديهم لقال الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا سحر مبين وقالوا لولا أنزل عليه ملك ولو أنزلنا ملكا لقضي الأمر ثم لا ينظرون ولو جعلناه ملكا لجعلناه رجلا وللبسنا عليهم ما يلبسون ولقد استهزئ برسل من قبلك فحاق بالذين سخروا منهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون قل سيروا في الأرض ثم انظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين قل لمن ما في السماوات والأرض قل لله كتب على نفسه الرحمة ليجمعنكم إلى يوم القيامة لا ريب فيه الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون ولو ما سكن في الليل والنهار وهو السميع العليم قل أغير الله أتخذ وليا فاطر السماوات والأرض وهو يطعم ولا يطعم قل إني أمرت أن أكون أول من أسلم ولا تكونن من المشركين قل إني أخاف إن عصيت ربي عذاب يوم عظيم من يصرف عنه يومئذ فقد رحمه وذلك الفوز المبين وإن يمسسك الله بضر فلا كاشف له إلا هو وإن يمسسك بخير فهو على كل شيء قدير وهو القاهر فوق عباده وهو الحكيم الخبير قل أي شيء أكبر شهادة قل الله شهيد بيني وبينكم وأوحي إلي هذا القرآن لأنذركم أئنكم لتشهدون أن مع الله آلهة أخرى قل لا أشهد قل إنما هو إله واحد وإنني بريء مما تشركون الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بآياته إنه لا يفلح الظالمون ويوم نحشرهم جميعا ثم نقول للذين أشركوا أين شركاؤكم الذين كنتم تزعمون ثم لم تكن فتنتهم إلا أن قالوا والله ربنا ما كنا مشركين انظر كيف كذبوا على أنفسهم وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون ومنهم من يستمع إليك وجعلنا على قلوبهم أكنة أن يفقهوا وفي آذانهم وقرا وإن يروا كل آية لا يؤمنوا بها حتى إذا جاءوك يجادلونك يقول الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا أساطير الأولين وهم ينهون عنه وينهون عنه وإن يهلكون إلا أنفسهم وما يشعرون ولو ترى إذ وقفوا على النار فقالوا يا ليتنا نرد ولا نكذب بآيات ربنا ونكون من المؤمنين بل بدا لهم ما كانوا يخفون من قبل ولو ردوا لعادوا لما نهوا عنه إنهم لكاذبون وقالوا إن هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا وما نحن بمبعوثين ولو ترى إذ وقفوا على ربهم قال أليس هذا بالحق قالوا بلى وربنا قال فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكفرون قد خسر الذين كذبوا بلقاء الله حتى إذا جاءتهم الساعة بغتة
يا حسرتنا على ما فرطنا فيها وهم يحملون أوزارهم على ظهورهم ألا ساء ما يزرون قد خسر الذين كذبوا بلقاء الله حتى إذا جاءتهم الساعة بغتة قالوا يا حسرتنا على ما فرطنا فيها وهم يحملون أوزارهم على ظهورهم ألا ساء ما يزرون وما الحياة الدنيا إلا لعب ولهو وللدار الآخرة خير للذين يتقون أفلا تعقلون قد نعلم إنه ليحزنك الذي يقولون فإنهم لا يكذبونك ولكن الظالمين بآيات الله يجحدون ولقد كذبت رسل من قبلك فصبروا على ما كذبوا وأوذوا حتى أتاهم نصرنا ولا مبدل لكلمات الله ولقد جاءك من نبأ المرسلين وإن كان كبر عليك إعراضهم فإن استطعت أن تبتغي نفقا في الأرض أو سلما في السماء فإن استطعت أن تبتغي نفقا في الأرض أو سلما في السماء فتأتيهم بآية ولو شاء الله لجمعهم على الهدى فلا تكونن من الجاهلين صدق الله العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا صرفت أبصارهم تلقاء أصحاب النار قالوا ربنا لا تجعلنا مع القوم الظالمين. ونادى أصحاب الأعراف رجالا يعرفونهم بسيماهم قالوا ما أغنى عنكم جمعكم وما كنتم تستكبرون هؤلاء الذين أقسمتم لا ينالهم الله برحمة ادخلوا الجنة لا خوف عليكم ولا أنتم تحزنون. ونادى أصحاب النار أصحاب الجنة أن أفيضوا علينا من الماء أو مما رزقكم الله قالوا إن الله حرمهما على الكافرين الذين اتخذوا دينهم لهوا ولعبا وغرتهم الحياة الدنيا فاليوم ننساهم كما نسوا لقاء يومهم هذا فاليوم ننساهم كما نسوا لقاء يومهم هذا وما كانوا بآياتنا يجحدون.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Cuddler, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be upon you all. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sabbihi wa man tabi'uhu bilisanin ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd fa inna asdaq al-hadithi kitab Allah wa khayru hadi Muhammad. The guidance of Muhammad alayhi salatu wa salam. We give praise to Almighty Allah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه بلسان إلى يوم الدين. Praise be to Almighty Allah, and peace and mercy and blessings be upon His noble Prophet Muhammad, upon his family, upon his beloved and respected companions, and all who follow him in goodness until the day of judgment. Alhamdulillah, I'm asking each and every one of you to join us this evening in remembering Allah, especially on this blessed night. This, by all estimates, is the 27th night of Shahr Ramadan, and each and every one of us have the opportunity now to draw closer to Allah, to let Him know that we truly believe in Him, and that we want to identify and take advantage of the great message and the great blessings that come with submission to His will and seeking His mercy. I am a part of a group of people. They're called Muslims. And there are two types of people in the world today, and they will have always existed. There are only two initial types of people, two categories of people. There are the winners and the losers. And what I want for us to think about tonight is that we don't want to be amongst the losers. The losers are the people who have advantage and have circumstance and opportunity put in front of them, and they don't take advantage of it. And the losers are the ones who look at things for not what they're worth, and they don't take the advantage of it. So I want to impress upon you the level of responsibility and the level of a merit that we can get in seeking the night of power on this evening in particular. Many of the scholars have suggested that the 27th of Shahr Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, is the night of power. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not give a clear indication as to whether the 27th was the night, but is one of the odd nights in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. But many people point towards the 27th, and this is the 27th, and Friday is the 29th. So I'm asking you, in what category do you want to place yourselves? I'm asking myself. Let me ask Imam Abdullah Farooq, what category do I want to be, amongst the winners or the losers? The winners, according to the Quran, said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Most assuredly, the success comes to the believers. Most assuredly, the success comes to the believers. And who are they? They are the people who are obedient to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Those are the ones who obey Allah. Those are the ones who give sadaqah. Those are the ones who treat people kindly, who obey their parents and fulfill their obligations. As Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, when describing, it says, talking in the ayat that they call the ayat of righteousness. It is not the righteousness is not you see, righteousness in people have to come by the qualities that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala uses to determine righteousness. So it's not righteousness that you turn your faces to the east or to the west. The righteous people are the ones who sincerely believe in Allah and do the works of righteousness. One of the most righteous things that you can do is seek the night of power, but you have to do it with full sincerity. You have to do it with full submission. You have to do it with a sense of, as I said last night, of turning to Him fully and putting away and putting aside any of things that are in you that would separate you from Him. And as I said last night, and as we will have from the Quran, that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He says, when they ask of me, tell them that I am near. And all we have to do is call upon Him. How would we let this blessed night pass from us, knowing that, as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said to the Prophet ﷺ, what should I pray for if I am to find this night of power? And she, may Allah be pleased with her, was told by the Prophet Muhammad to say, Allahumma innaka anta afuun karimun tuhibu afwa fa'fu anni. O Allah, you are the most noble and forgiving God. You love to forgive, so forgive me. So on this night, we have to, and I'm asking you and I'm asking myself, and making to make a determination for myself, in what category do I want to be in, amongst the winners or the losers? The losers, according to the Quran, it says, Alladhina dalla sa'yuhum fi hayati dunya. The losers are those who efforts in this world is lost. Wahum yasabuna, and they believe or think anahum yuhsinuna sunnah, and they believe that the work that they were doing was good. So, two things. Number one, we have to know who Allah is. That's number one. We have to, first of all, let me say this. We have to know who He is and what He wants. And that's what He wants is second. Two things. That we want to know who Allah is clearly, because there are many people who do tremendous good works in this life. Many people, amongst the Christians, the Jews, the Buddhists, many other people of different faiths, and they're doing many, many wonderful works. Doing everything they can to, it seems, to work for the good of humankind. But they do this work quite often without the full knowledge of who God is. And although they're doing good works, their works will not be counted in the same manner that the works of the believers are, who are doing the work for the sake of pleasing Allah solely. So I'm asking, and I will pray right now in the middle of my small conversation with you, that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala makes us amongst the people who clearly understand who is, Qul huwa Allahu ahad, that He is one, Allahu samad, He is independent, lam yalid wa lam yulad, that He is not born and He is not giving birth to or raising any children. He is not the father of any of us. This is the things we have to know who Allah is by virtue of what He says about Himself. And when we know these things, then we should be able to better submit to Him. The second thing is to know what he wants of us. The believing men and women called aflahal mu'minun. The successful are the believers. So there's two sorts of people: the one who the muflihun and the khasirun. The khasirun are the losers, and the muflihun are the ones who are successful in this life and in the next. I'm asking Allah to give us the proper knowledge of who He is, to understand exactly what our obligations are as Muslims, and to find the good of this life and the good of the life to come. Most assuredly, that if any of us are going to do that, then we should be clear about what the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, did with his time, especially in these last 10 days and nights. He would spend the day fasting, and although Allah Ta'ala says that شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى وبينات منهما means clarification of the guidance. We don't want to be misguided, nor do we want to have our ability to discern what is right and wrong put aside by our inability to fully understand what Allah wants of us. The beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, he instructed us on this night of power that is worth more than 83 years. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وليلة القدر. Laylatul Qadr is khayrun min alf shahr. It's better than 1,000 months, and the math tells us that this is 83 years and 4 months. I don't know if they're doing it by the Hijri calendar or if they're doing it by the sun calendar, but whatever it is more than 80 years of life. Now we can lose 83 years of life, 83 years of life, by not properly understanding the worth and the merit of this special night that we are seeking, and tonight being one of those that are particularly looked to as a possibility of being the night of power. How would you lose if you are in your proper mind and proper state of faith? How would you permit for a year that is worth 83 years of existence to pass you by? How could we ever permit this to happen? Could only happen if we don't value, if we don't think deeply in our hearts that and truly believe that this night is true. The Prophet ﷺ, that all of these last 10 nights he spent it in much ibadah. He would worship more extensively in the hope of receiving the immense rewards that come with this night. He would do extra salat. He would do extra tilawah, recitation of the Quran. He would give more generously during these last 10 nights. His salat, he would, for us, sending salat or duroos on our Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is especially meritorious. Now, all are very commendable on these nights. It should be noted, however, that according to the hadith, there's no special salat. We don't make a special salat. We do the things that have been prescribed for us. And as I said, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said, in asking about this, Ya Rasulullah, what should I pray for? Allahumma rabbana innaka anta afuwan karimun, that you are generously forgiving. Then you ask him to forgive you generously in this evening. I'm asking Allah to open up the gates of His mercy, to forgive me and to forgive all of you, and to open up the gates of His mercy for us. But your obligation on this night, as it is for me as well, is to decide which category of people that you want to be in. And this category of people that you want to be in is not just wrapped up in this evening. This category of people that you want to be in, the decision comes by how you continue to live your life beyond Shahr Ramadan. Remember that I want to advise of all of you that if you're paying your zakat, some people are saying it's $10 and $15 for Ramadan, that you pay it within the next 2 days. Some are suggesting $10, some are suggesting $15, and that you, if you of barley or dates, or give it to the ISBCC or Mosque for the Praising of Allah, or whatever center that you attend, so that they can buy food cards or to distribute the food, because many people come to the Masjid looking for the Zakat al-Fitr. So this is a way for you to absolve yourself of this particular obligation that is not just meritorious, but it is an obligation. Now, if you don't have it to give, then it should be given to you. So make sure that you recognize that you are able in this month, in particular in these last few days, if you are a believing man and woman, to go to the masjid and ask for Zakat al-Fitr and tell them how many people you have in your family. You can also ask for Zakat al-Mal as well. And this gives us the opportunity to extend the hand of mercy that comes through us as his hopefully approved of servants. So many of you, including myself, because the masajid aren't open, aren't able to make itikaf. But I believe that it's important for you to have the itikaf mentality and for you to seclude yourself away from the worldly affairs, spend extra time in your homes, disregarding the telephone and the many things that can deter you or dissuade you or permit you to be more forgetful of Allah, and do everything that you can to draw near to Him. So, قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. The key to success in the salah is the khushu', complete mindfulness, complete attentiveness, and not to be thinking of other things that most definitely will pass you by. Okay, you have to be humbly submissive in your prayers. Offering your prayers is one thing, but being humbly submissive in it is the next. So I want for us to be not only making dhikr of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, Allahumma innaka anta afuun tuhibbu afwa fa'fu anna, Allahumma rabbana la ilaha illa ant wahdahu la sharika lah, lahu mulku wa lahu alhamdu wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. We have to find verses like this to say for ourselves regularly, over and over and over again. All praise goes to Allah. He is the one, He has no partners. To Him belongs the kingdom, to Him belongs the praise, and He has power over all things. The Prophet ﷺ said in saying this that as though you freed 100 slaves, and it's as though you fed 100 people. And the only one that could outdo you in making this one particular dhikr is if someone who made it more than you. What I usually do in the morning is try to say it 50 times after Fajr and try to spread it out throughout the day, just to make sure that I'm keeping up with that. Not always am I successful, but most of the time I'm trying to do this. And I'm going to tell you one more thing about the prayer as I begin to close. And it is that you are closest to Allah when you are in the position of Sajda. You are closest to Allah. The most loved position is when you are in Sajda. So while you're in Sajda, while you are near, call upon Allah, while you have yourself in His eyes, in His thinking, that you are there completely submissive to Him, and spend some time while you're in the last rak'ah of your Salat with your face to the ground, saying this, pray, oh Allah, open up the gates of your mercy for me. Forgive me and have mercy on me. And as Aisha said, oh Allah, certainly you are a forgiving, most forgiving and merciful God. Have mercy on me. And I believe in my heart of hearts that if you call upon Allah in full sincerity, He will answer your prayers. So as I close, I ask Allah to, as the Imam, I will say, Allahumma innaka anta afuun tuhibbu afwa, Allahumma innaka anta afuun karimun tuhibbu afwa fa'fu anna. I ask Him to forgive us, to wipe away all trace of sin, to overlook our shortcomings, and help us on this blessed night to find His mercy His forgiveness, and His salvation. If I said anything wrong, most assuredly I attribute it to myself. And if there's anything bad in what I've said or incorrect, most assuredly I attribute it to me. And if there's anything good in what I've said, it is from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Glory be to Him. I pray for the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. I pray for his family. I pray for his companions and all who follow him in righteousness and good. And I pray that we will be included amongst them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ramadan Mubarak. Eid Kareem.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Qadr, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Qadr, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem. أعوذ الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And sisters, welcome back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good to be with all of you on this blessed night, the 27th night, alhamdulillah, of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us our blessings and allow us to meet and greet the night of Qadr. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Laylatul Qadr, on the night of power, to give us all of the blessings of worship for 83.3 years, and forgive us of our shortcomings, elevate us in rank, forgive our parents, our loved ones, ourselves, our teachers, our neighbors, all of our friends, bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Brothers and sisters, on this we are now at Juz 27. And Juz 27, brothers and sisters, very, very, very powerful Juz. I think suffice it to say that it brings so many things together as it's nearing the close and nearing the end of the Quran. And Juz 27, dear brothers and sisters, contains about 7 different chapters of the Quran. It first starts off with chapter 51 and ends with chapter 57. Chapter 51 is called Al-Dhariyat, which means the scattered winds. And the scattered winds, as we enter this juz of the Quran, we are reminded of the winds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates in this world and what's behind those winds. So there are angels that are behind those winds and the angelic forces that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala infuses into the cosmos and into the workings of the world. We're reminded about all these forces that are invisible but nonetheless present. And these forces that are invisible but nonetheless present are part of the signs of Allah and part of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, the signs of nature is a heavy theme in this chapter, the chapter on the scattered winds, Surah Al-Dhariyat. And that nature itself, the workings of nature, and so many different aspects of the workings of nature are part and parcel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power and his dominion. And as a result of that, what is natural and what is part of nature is resurrection. So the resurrection and the fact and the truth of the resurrection is echoed in this chapter. And this chapter ends and closes with a strong declaration where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Human beings or humankind or humanity at large and the jinn have only been created to worship me, Allah Ta'ala says. So Allah says all of humanity and all of the jinn have only been created to worship him, to worship Allah Ta'ala. And that's our purpose. That's the objective of our our mission and our creation to devote ourselves purely, holistically, sincerely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this chapter, chapter 51, is important because it's the only chapter in the Quran that clearly articulates why we are here. Well, it's not the only chapter. The two chapters articulated, Surah Al-Bayyinah and with Jews, which we'll come to on Friday, inshallah, articulates it also. But the difference is that these Surah Dhariyat, this chapter, objective clearly, and later on, as we'll see, and the Juz 30, Surah Al-Bayyinah, articulates the quality or the howness of that objective, right? So Allah says our objective is to worship and devote ourselves to Allah. And later on, we'll find out in Surah Al-Bayyinah and chapter part 30 or Juz 30 that Allah wants us not just to worship Allah, but to worship Allah Ta'ala mukhlisina lahuddin, with sincerity, right? So this is the objective of our being here, and this is that yet. And then we come to, brothers and sisters, chapter 52, Surah At-Tur. At-Tur is the name of the mountain where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Musa alayhi salam, in Mount Sinai, basically Mount Sinai. And in this chapter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's called, the name of the chapter is the mountain, meaning Mount Sinai. And it's called that because Allah, in the very first verse, swears by that mountain. Allah and Allah Ta'ala, when He swears by something in the Quran, He only swears by great, tremendous things. So if you look at all the things Allah, things, they're amazing monuments and testaments to the power of Allah. And so Allah swears by this, and in this by that mountain, and in this chapter, Allah addresses the arguments of the disbelievers. He actually clearly articulates the arguments of those that disbelieve in Him. This is a feature of the Quran that we've not really talked about, but you'll notice that the Quran is a book of truth, that Allah Ta'ala has no problem clearly presenting the arguments of those that disagree with truth, the arguments of those that disbelieve in Allah Ta'ala, and then Allah Ta'ala presents His side. So both presentations are there for us to observe and to look at. What's also interesting is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about something very unique and interesting as it relates to heaven. So Allah mentions in this chapter, in Surah Tur, chapter 52, that children in paradise will be elevated to the rank of their parents. In other words, if parents, as we'll get into in Surah Al-Rahman and Surah Al-Waqi'ah later on, we'll see that there are ranks in paradise. There are levels. There are two major levels. There's a higher level and another level, but not as high. There's an elevated level and a higher level than that. And so if the parents are in the highest level and the children are in the regular level, the standard beautiful Jannah level, the parents will miss their kids. They would like to visit their kids, but they like to stay in their high level, And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of rahmah to the parents, will elevate the children to the high level, and vice versa. If the children are higher and the parents are lower, than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do the same. This is Allah Ta'ala's mercy, so that everyone in Jannah is comforted. But the surah actually mentions the fact that the children can be elevated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah, even though they're already in Jannah. If their parents are at a higher level, the children can be elevated. And this is a testimony to the greatness of our parents, subhanAllah. A final feature of this chapter, brothers and sisters, is that there are well over 10 times, around 13 or 14 times, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this chapter sends us and gives us rhetorical questions back to back to back, right? He uses the interrogative pronouns. So, do they do this? Have they done that? Did they do this? Can they do that? Talking about us, the creation, and talking about what our limitations are, listing for us the limitations that we have, and therefore recognizing our weakness and Allah Ta'ala's strength. Allah, notice this as you're reading through this chapter, where Allah Ta'ala's listing that He's interrogating us step by step, almost back to back, well over a dozen times in this chapter altogether, right, as a group of verses that go back to back to back to back. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this chapter of the Quran by telling us to, by recognizing that we our weakness, recognizing our humbled state, that we should glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we should glorify Allah ta'ala at different times of the day, and we should glorify Allah ta'ala at night before we rest, and we should glorify Allah ta'ala, he says, when the stars fade away in the middle of the night, right? In the deep darkness of the night, when the stars start to go away. And then that's the last verse. And then we are taken to chapter 53, which is called An-Najm, the star, right? So Allah says, glorify Allah as the stars go away. And then he takes the star and introduces it as a feature that Allah swears by. And chapter 53 is called Surah An-Najm, the star. And Allah Ta'ala begins, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى. He swears by the star when it falls, right? And so he just talked about remembering himself, doing dhikr of Allah Ta'ala when the stars go away, right? When they're gone. And then he swears by that feature also, right? By the fact that the stars, what we are cast away. They are thrown away. And this is what we call a falling star or shooting star. And it's a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what the Prophet ﷺ told us is that this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is casting the stars at the shayateen to punish them and to get them away from trying to listen in to the divine realm and steal secrets about what's going to happen in the world. And so Allah swears by this feature, and he swears by this feature in this chapter to confirm the Prophet's mission, ﷺ, and to confirm the truth of the fact that the Prophet ﷺ ascended into heaven on the night journey, the night of the Isra and the Mi'raj. Right? So he goes, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى. And another feature of this chapter is that it ends in the alif maqsoor, the alif which is written as a ya and pronounced as an alif. Right? All the verses end like this. We talked yesterday about Surah Muhammad, which ends in meen, and Surah Fath, which ends in the letter alif. Well, this chapter, Surah Najm, ends in the alif that's written as a ya. It's pronounced as an alif, but it's written as a ya. Right? So it goes, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى, right? By the star when it descends and it falls, right? And we swear by that feature, by that phenomenon. مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى. Your companion Muhammad ﷺ is not, astray, right? Or misguided. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. And he doesn't speak from his own whims and inclination. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. He speaks only from divine revelation and divine inspiration. عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى. And he was taught, not by a human being, not by some PhD, not by some philosopher or some poet or some, intellectual, but he was taught by the one who's the king of, the owner of might and power. So it ends and it rhymes with this alif that's written as a ya, alif maqsoor. This is a feature that punctuates each and every verse in the chapter. Surah Najm also ends, or the last verse is a Sajda verse, is a verse of prostration. And also that verse of prostration which ends the surah, along with the 4 or 5 verses before it, so the last 5 or 6 verses, they have a different ending intentionally, obviously. Their ending is in different letters as well. And so as the chapter comes to an end, the end of the chapter, the last few verses, change as well. They don't end in that alif maqsoor, that alif that's written in a ya. The ending, it alternates and changes. And that's a very beautiful closing to this chapter of the Quran. It refutes the claims of the disbelievers that this is not truth, and it actually warns the listener of the Day of Judgment. So this is obviously a repeating phenomenon that we're starting to get heavily into in these last few parts of the Quran. Heavily into a warning to not reject the Day of Judgment, and a consistent, stern message about the importance of believing in resurrection, right, and taking the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seriously enough to remember that. So then the chapter of the moon, the chapter of stars is concluded, and then we go to the moon. Right? So chapter 54 is called Surah Al-Qamar, the chapter on the moon. So first we have these, in this juz here, we have all of these sort of environmental chapters, these chapters that are titled after different things in the environment. Chapter 51 is about scattered winds, sort of that yet. Chapter 52 was about Mount Sinai, this grand mountain, the most, grandest and historical and beautiful of mountains. Chapter 53 is the star, so we go from the earth itself to the sky with the winds, and then we go to the cosmos, the stars, and then we go to the moon, Suratul Qamar, chapter 54. So Allah Ta'ala, by naming the chapters, He's also taking us on a grand tour of His ayats, His signs, and how to think about the function of each of His signs, right? And so Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Qamar a few things. The theme of this chapter is that Allah highlights the punishment of the disbelievers as a warning to the disbelievers of Mecca, actually, and then by extension to folks who disbelieve in the message of Allah Ta'ala after that. Throughout this chapter, throughout Surah Al-Qamar, there is a, let's call it a refrain, right? A consistent line that is repeated so that we can think deeply about the message that's being said. And it's a consistent frame that's repeated in this Quran, in this chapter here, right? فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah Ta'ala says, is there any one of you who will take heed to this message? Who will listen? Who will take heed to this message, right? And so this is the constant refrain throughout the surah. Who's going to take heed to this message? How terrible was this punishment? So who's going to listen to the message? And then he tells another story. How terrible was this punishment? And who's going to take heed to this message? We've made this Quran easy to remember. So who's going to take heed to this message, right? فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Is there anyone that's going to listen? Is there anyone that's going to listen? All right, this is a constant refrain that's in this chapter, and there's another constant refrain that comes up in the next chapter as well, which we're going to talk about. So Surah Al-Qamar is very beautiful in this regard, and it also talks about the difference, the stark difference in the treatment between the disbelievers on the one hand and the believers on the other. And I caution, as you're reading through this, if you haven't read this chapter, when you come to this chapter, inshallah, you come to it today or tomorrow, chapter 54, read it carefully. Slowly, take your time. If you're trying to get it finished in Arabic, finish in Arabic and then read it in English, as well as chapter 55, which is Surah Al-Rahman, right after that. And boy, subhanallah, is Surah Al-Rahman gem, brothers and sisters. If you wanted, like, if it's been difficult to sort of take in some of the warnings to the disbelievers, when you enter Surah Al-Rahman, the chapter 55, which is the Lord of Mercy, that's like breathing cool, fresh water after you've been fasting all day, right? I mean, it just cools you off, and it's an inspiration and an invigoration and motivation to just devote yourself to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So Surah Rahman has a few themes. Number one, it highlights the wonders of this world that we're living in as signs of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And then it highlights, tremendous and grand wonders of the afterlife. Number two, it paints this beautiful, it constructs this beautiful, provocative picture of heaven, of Jannah, in a way not done before in the Quran. And the Quran talks, there's so many clues and snapshots and photographs, so to speak, that the Quran gives us as previews of Jannah in Surah Rahman. And Surah Waqiyah after it. Both of these surahs, 55 and 56, these are chapters that you've got to read in English and think deeply about as you're reading them in Arabic as well. And if you're a native Arabic speaker, you've got to look at the commentary and think deeply about these two chapters. This will, if you haven't stayed up for Laylatul Qadr, if you read this chapter, you'll be up all night and the night after that, trying to increase your ibadah to Allah Ta'ala, your worship to Allah Ta'ala. In this chapter, Rahman, the Lord of Mercy, Surah Al-Rahman, it divides humanity up as well into three categories. And we've seen this as an overall refrain consistent theme, if you will, throughout the Quran from the very beginning, when it talks about the believers and the disbelievers and the hypocrites. And then after that, it talks about the larger concept of the ummah, of the prophets, right? And then later on gets into the ummah, Ummat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the characteristic of the Prophet's ummah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, the Muslims that follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then later on, we get into the quality of the believers in chapter Surah Al-Mu'minun, right? Chapter 23 of the Quran. I believe it's chapter 23. And then after that, we get into Ibadur Rahman, the servants of the Most Merciful. Now, here in Surah Rahman, we find there's a different triad category, right, of human beings. First, there are those who are considered, those who've transgressed and gone outside of, they've broken the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? They're those that have committed crimes with Allah ta'ala, disobeyed Allah ta'ala. And then there are those who are who are mindful of Allah ta'ala and understand Allah's level, right? مَمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ, right? Those that fear the rank of their Lord. And then there's everyone else who does good. And Allah ta'ala divides humanity up into these categories and tells us about what they get. And particularly Surah Al-Rahman, this chapter spends quite a bit of time about not the one garden, but the two Jannahs, the two gardens that are for each of those two latter categories, the two gardens, two Jannahs that are given to the folks in the higher category, those that fear the maqam, the rank of Allah Ta'ala, and the other two Jannahs that are given to the other believers as well. So we are introduced now to the idea that people in Jannah will not only have a place in one Jannah, but in 7 Jannah, right? 7 different levels. And so we get from Surah Al-Rahman this cosmology, if you will, where there exists the fire or hell, and then there exists a heaven, and then heaven has 2 broad parts to it. One is a higher part and one is a lower part, and both are places of bliss and eternal happiness, etc. And within those 2 parts, there are ranks as well. And we know throughout the entire Quran, Jannah has there are 7 levels, and there's also 7 levels of the hellfire as well. And each of those levels has names, right? Inshallah, when we finish Juz 30th, inshallah ta'ala, we'll review all of the 7 names of the 7 levels. For example, Na'im, for example, in Jannah, and Aden is another name. Khuld is another name. In Jahannam, there's Hutama, there's Saqar, there's Jahim, for example. There are these names not only of the hellfire, but of levels that are there. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, for the one that fears Allah, the maqam of Allah ta'ala, Jannatan. They'll get 2 Jannahs, not just 1, but 2. And the same thing for the others as well. So Surah Rahman is very powerful. And the last thing I want us to keep in mind as we're thinking about Surah Rahman, reading about Surah Rahman, is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only speaking to human beings on this one. He's also clearly addressing human beings, humanity, and the jinn. And he's sending both creatures of his, another constant refrain, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which of the favors of your Lord will you both deny, both human beings and jinn? Which of Allah's favors? So Allah will mention a gift, a bounty, a ni'mah, a blessing, a favor, and then say, which of the favors of your Lord will you both deny, both human beings and jinn? Those in his creation that are visible and those in his creation that are invisible, right? But both are visible to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in the visual world and in the hidden world, right? And so this is a beautiful constant refrain, and it is mentioned in this chapter where Allah repeats this, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which of the favors of your Lord will you both deny? Allah repeats this as a refrain over and over again, like he repeated the other refrain in Surah Al-Qamar, in the moon, but he repeats this one 31 times in the chapter. This is the most time in a particular chapter where Allah Ta'ala repeats ongoing refrain. 31 times Allah Ta'ala mentions it, and the reason it's mentioned over 30 times is to drive home the point as a humble reminder that there is no blessing, no bounty, no gift, no favor of Allah Ta'ala that we could dispense with and do without with. Allah showers gifts on us, and even in the afterlife, showers gifts on His servants. And what He's asked us to do, as is articulated in Surah Dhatiyat, chapter 57, all He's asked us to do is devote ourselves to Him. And when He's asked us to give, as we mentioned yesterday, He hasn't asked us to give all of our wealth, just a little bit of it, subhanAllah. And we constantly are blessed in this life with such blessings that we couldn't deny anything, and not let alone the next life. So this is 55, and then we enter into 56, its partner, which is called Surah Al-Waqi'ah. It's the chapter on that which is coming, that which is expected to come. That's the name of Surah Al-Waqi'ah, chapter 56. Another deeply, deeply, deeply provocative, profound, beautiful chapter. Another one you should read in English if you're a native English speaker. If you're an native Arabic speaker, read the commentary on this. Extremely profound. It'll open your heart up. Chapter Waqi'ah is about what the title is. It's about that which is coming, the day of judgment. And this chapter does something powerful as well, because it also continues the habit of dividing humanity up into three categories. And this triad, this categorization of human beings is like this. The first are those that have been brought near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, muqarrabin or muqarrabun. The second are those who are on the right. And the third are those who are on the left. And Allah Ta'ala tells us the benefits, the gifts, the rewards of those who are brought near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost. And you have to read this. It's something you cannot even talk about. You just have to read it and let it sit in. And then Allah Ta'ala talks about the people, Ashab al-Yamin, the people on the right, and their reward. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people on the left and their sanction and their punishment. Then Allah Ta'ala talks about the various aspects of creation that exist around us. Particularly four things, right? Allah Ta'ala talks about rain or water. Could we do without it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about fire and what we use. So first He says, first Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about our own creation, and He says, do you create yourselves, or is that something we do, right? Then He talks about water and says, is that do we bring that down from the clouds for your benefit, or is that something you do? And then He talks about fire. He says, do we create that and cause that to ignite, to heat your homes and to heat your, this is my commentary, to heat your homes and to propel your vehicles and for all different uses? Do we cause that to ignite, or is that something you do? And then He talks about wood. He said, does that, do we produce the trees for that, the raw materials for that, or is that something you do, right? And then He talks about the glory of the Quran, right, and which is a manifestation of His power, and that just brings you to humility. And then He transitions to death. And the provocative part of this chapter is it ends with the preview that every person will experience, that with the soul will reach the hulqum, which is the throat here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really, just this closing chapter will make you cry. He says, when the soul reaches the throat, the neck of the person, the last moment when it's about, before it comes out, the last moment which signifies the fact that the veil is being lifted from the person, and the world of the unseen, the world of the ghaib, the world of the afterlife is now emerging to the eyes of the dying person. وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ, and you and your relatives are around that person, you're looking on, but وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ, at that point we are closer to them than you are, وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ, but you don't see us, right? At that point Allah says, they're mine, right? They're in my world. You might be there with them at their bedside in the hospital or whatever, but they're in my realm now, right? And but you don't see us. And if that person's, and Allah says, look at that person's actions and see what happens. If they're of the muqarrabin, so they're going to be welcomed with a grand ceremony. And if they're going to be of the people on the right, send blessings on those people on the right, right? But if they're the people on the left, then their welcome is going to be a fiery one. And we're not talking about fiery in the celebratory sense, fiery in the regretful sense. And so, the closing part of this, the opening part, sends you on this, this euphoric high, about heaven, and then the closing part just drops you to your knees. It's very, very profound. And the entire Quran does this as well, brothers and sisters. It's a juxtapositioning of the Meccan surahs and the Medinan surahs, the Meccan chapters and the Medinan chapters. The Medina chapters, Medina is about a city, it's about a constitution, it's about, establishing something, building you up. And so, the Medina chapters are about building you up and making you an ummah, and making you a believer, and straightening your back and standing for justice and doing what's right. And then the Meccan chapters, all about the afterlife and what's going to happen and the day of resurrection and all the horrors, and then drops you down and brings you down. So there's this cyclical nature of the Quran, where you rise and you fall, and you rise and you fall, and you rise and you fall, and you have hope and you have fear, and you have hope and you have fear. And just like the Salat, you stand and you bow, and you stand and you bow. This is the believer, that they're balanced between these modes, right? So Surah Al-Waqi'ah, lets you jump with elation at Jannah, and then at the end it talks about your death, right? Let you be very humble to this, right? And this is why the Jews of the Quran are combinations of Meccan surahs, Medina surahs. Sometimes when you feel great about your deen and like you could do anything you want, you read a Meccan surah and you're like, whoa, I'm nothing. I am nothing. I'm just, fly on the wall. I am nothing. Let me just be humble. And sometimes you're so depressed and you're so upset and you feel like you're nothing, and you read a Medina surah and Allah tells you, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope of the mercy of Allah. And here's what Jannah is like. And you become, constituted, you're reinvigorated, etc. So this is the nature of, that's why this, Jews, brothers and sisters, as I'm closing now, in the last 10 seconds, stay with me in the last 10 seconds. This Jews closes with chapter 57, which is the chapter on iron, which is like, be strong. It deals with the nature of this world, that it's a fleeting matter. It's just a game. It's going to come to an end. And Allah talks about the believers and the hypocrites, and how we as believers have to stay strong and continue to give and continue to do the right thing. So brothers and sisters, as we close, inshallah, we ask Allah for success in being people that are brought near to Allah Ta'ala, and people being on the right hand who love Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Join me tomorrow night as we go into Juz 28, inshallah, so Juz al-Mujadala, and as we journey through the Quran. Have a blessed evening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah. All praise is due to Allah. It's as always an honor to be here. I begin in the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful. May peace and blessings be upon His beloved Prophet. All praise is due to Allah. Alhamdulillah. I want to jump right in, inshallah, and begin discussing something we left off with last time, which is considering the meanings of the elements of the prayer that we might take for granted. So for those of us who have been Muslim for long periods of time, or those of us, who have been, those of us who've been Muslim for long periods of time, either as converts like myself, or what are called the dusty converts as opposed to new converts, or people who were born and raised as Muslims, the actions and the sayings and the statements of the prayer can become habitual to the extent that unfortunately it's possible to go from the takbir at the beginning of the prayer to the salams at the end of the prayer without very much presence of heart. And it's the opinion of Imam al-Ghazali, at least, that and others, that one only gets from the prayer that portion in which they were present. And he's even gone to some have even gone to the extent to declare the invalidity of a prayer that does not have presence of heart from beginning to end, which is a tall order for many of us. In any case, it's not so that we are constantly concerned with racking up the points for our prayers, or constantly being in a state of worry. But the point is that we want to guard our prayers. We want to establish our prayers. We want to make the prayer not merely just a part of the routine, nor something that we pop in and do from time to time and don't, at other times are lax about. The goal here is to establish the prayer in our lives. And when we establish the prayers in our lives, is not merely establishing the movements. And so the spiritual dimensions of prayer that Imam al-Ghazali teaches us about, as well as many of the other scholars, is concerned with giving each part of the prayer its right, its due, and enlivening the prayer, or reviving the prayer, or imbuing the prayer with a life that makes it more than just a body, that gives it a soul. So ensuring that both the body of the prayer and the soul of the prayer are sound and intact, and perform together. And that doesn't occur except that our bodies and our souls are in harmony in this act of worship. So we've been mentioning the meanings of the movements. What does it mean to prostrate? What does it mean to do sujood? What does it mean to do ruku'? What does it mean to stand before Allah? And there's so much that we can say on these. We're just getting a taste of them. But each one of these actions has a symbolic meaning. Symbolic, not in the sense that it is mere metaphor. These are, in fact, postures that carry these meanings of humility with them. So these are the movements of the prayer are imbued with a meaning of humility, of awe, of standing before Allah, of bowing to Allah, of prostrating to Allah. But and this is a very, very important part, and it's something that we can work on, especially if you don't speak Arabic, if you don't understand each and every word of the Fatiha, if you don't understand each and every word of the prayer. But even for those of us who do speak Arabic, and I try to count myself amongst them, but still working on that. Even if you do speak Arabic in varying levels of proficiency, it's still essential. It's still essential that we are conscientious, that we are aware, that we are perceiving, that we are considering the meanings of the words that we are reciting, and not merely as the surface level meanings of these texts, but that we really dig down deeply into them, and that we call to our hearts the fullest implications possible to us. And so we left off last time talking about the takbiratul ihram of saying Allahu Akbar at the very beginning of the prayer is. And we're jumping ahead here because each moment, turning the body towards the Qibla, turning the body towards the house of Allah in Mecca, the Kaaba, is the external bodily element of the prayer. But turning the heart towards Allah, just as the body turns away from every other direction, every other thing in the world, and faces Mecca, faces the Kaaba, so to the heart turns away from. The spiritual heart turns away from everything else and turns towards Allah and Allah only. So all the each act of the ablutions, of the wudu, each act of the conditions. Sorry, the preconditions of the prayer finding Mecca, putting on clean clothing, having a clean place of prayer, all of that has an outward and an inward reality to it and meaning to it that we need to be digging deeper into. And again, we're just touching on some of these ideas. It's one of my sheikhs used to refer to these types of things as these types of sessions as more of an advertisement for knowledge than a real seeking and teaching of knowledge. But alhamdulillah, we get what we get, and inshallah there's barakah and thawab, there's reward and blessing in all of it. In any case, if we start from the takbiratul ihram, if we start from Allahu Akbar, Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah says, do not say Allahu Akbar, that God is great, while your heart holds something to be greater than Allah. And in the Ihya al-Ulum, so this is from the Arba'in fi Usul al-Din, the 40 foundations of religion that I was reading from. But in the revival of religious sciences, of which this book is an abridgment or a summary, he gets into it in greater detail, and you can find abridged translations of the more lengthy abridged translations of the Ihya online on Ghazali.org. But in any case, do not say that Allah is great while your hearts hold something to be greater than Allah. This is a weighty statement and a weighty thing to consider. What are we placing before Allah in our lives? And what does that mean? What does it mean to be considering something else to have greater potential for impact on our lives, greater, that are great, will have a greater causal power in our lives than Allah? A'udhu billah, right? So this is, it's hard to even say when you put it into words. It's hard to even fathom that someone would do this, but we have to look closely at ourselves and think to ourselves, how often do we have greater concern for what others may think about us than what Allah knows and considers about us, right? How often do we find ourselves concerned with the judgments of others when we are and less concerned with the judgment of Allah? And again, we think of our relationship with Allah to be rooted in primarily in love, right? And hoping for reward and fearing punishment. These are low levels of ikhlas, of sincerity. They're valid and they're good, but higher than that, we aim to have the primary foundation of our relationship with Allah to be founded in love. So, and knowing that when we say Allahu Akbar, Allah is greatest, that Allah is transcendently above and beyond every single thing that He has created, and that every single thing that occurs in this moment, that each stage of growth of a flower, right, from seed to seedling to to stem to blooming flower, that at each stage of this, every molecule in it is created by Allah, is sustained by Allah, and it's destined, its directionality, where it is going, is destined by Allah. So that each moment and all that it contains is connected to Allah's willpower and knowledge, that nothing has any real power or might apart from what has been created for it. That is to say, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power or might except with Allah. That nothing comes into being. Nothing has any power. Nothing has any effective power that can make anything happen, can do anything, except as Allah creates it to do so. So when we say Allahu Akbar, if we can practice this as often as possible, perhaps even to the point where at each and every single prayer, ideally, inshallah. That each time we raise our hands to say Allahu Akbar, that we are contemplating that meaning. So one very beneficial bit of advice that I got from one of my teachers was to practice the contemplation of the meanings of dhikr. So that is to say, to take a term like a phrase like Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, and really study the meanings of them. And this is especially if you have some Arabic, to really get down to the lughawi, the linguistic meanings of hamd and shukr and the statements like Allahu Akbar and Subhanallah, to really get down to their linguistic sort of textures and meanings, as well as their Shari meanings, the meanings that they've come with in the Quran, and pull that out and really contemplate it and bring it to mind, often practicing outside of the prayer, so that when we say Allahu Akbar, we're really contemplating Allah's transcendence. When we're saying Subhana Rabbil A'la, that we're really thinking about what does it mean to glorify Allah? What is that state of awe that we are in as we are saying Subhana Rabbil A'la, right? Glorified is Allah, the Most High. What does this mean? So really to contemplate as best as we can glorification and transcendence and praise and thanks, gratitude. What do these terms mean? To really practice them, to really study them, to take a moment away from the Facebook or the TV or whatever it may be, and really look up these words and really, see what the ulama, what the scholars have said about their meanings, and then put them into our prayers, put them into our lives, such that we, when we pray, we think about them, and they don't just become habitual. So Imam al-Ghazali mentions 3 types of people who guard their prayers, who establish them in their lives and guard them. And the first is the person who really focuses on the purification, the ablutions, the wudu, having a clean clothing, clean place of prayer, clean purified body through the wudu and ghusl and so on. So really guards the outward purity of body. The second type are those who hold fast to the second type of those who carefully guard their prayers are those who hold fast to the sunnah, the prophetic ways related to the prayer and its outward actions and verbal remembrances and glorifications of Allah. For each has a spiritual secret and an effect on the heart. Right? The spiritual reality, the spiritual dimensions of prayer to be concerned with the spiritual effect on the heart. So if our hearts are not being impacted by our prayers, by our salat and our other acts of worship, then something is not right. Something is not working. It means we have more work to do, and it is in the domain of the prayer, the spiritual dimension of the prayer, that we need to be focused. This is directly connected with what happens outside the prayer. So the more junk we fill our minds with, the more distracted our prayers will be. The more we busy our limbs with the haram and the makruh, the more absent our prayers will be. And so the Prophet ﷺ has established recommended actions for us with regard to the prayer. To pray, and our goal is to pray as we have seen, as the description has reached us of how the Prophet ﷺ has prayed. And the third type of person who carefully guards his prayer is one who carefully guards the soul of the prayer, the inner reality of the prayer. Sincerity and presence of heart in all parts of the prayer, and the characterizing of the heart at each moment with the meanings of the prayer are what is meant by the soul of the prayer. It's praying only for the sake of Allah, not because you're worried about what other people think of you, not because you want people to call you pious. Having presence of mind and heart, khushu', in every aspect of the prayer, really, contemplating the meanings of them, letting those meanings impact your heart as you're reciting them, even in translation, just to have the general picture of those meanings as they pass by in your mind. That is, so as you're reciting the Arabic parts, to have, to associate these meanings with those chunks of Arabic that you're reciting, even if you don't understand each preposition or each noun and so on. And the heart being characterized by the meanings of each action. For example, that the humility is attached to the sujood, right? That you don't just do that out of habit. It's not just a relaxing kind of place to stretch out your spine, but that you are in a state of humble submission to Allah, right? So to reach this higher level, our goal is to have sincerity, presence of heart, and for our hearts to be characterized by these meanings that are inherent in the prayer. Forgive me for going a little long. I just want to be sure, in case this is our last session, to make sure I get through this. So do not prostrate, do sujood, nor ruku, bow, except that your heart is reverent and humbled, in accordance with what is expressed with your outward movements. For what is sought is the submission of the heart, not the submission of the body. The bodily element of the prayer is important, but without the soul of the prayer, it is a dead prayer. So what's sought, however, are the meanings of these movements and their impact on the heart. It's the humility, it's the submission, it's the love. That is what is the soul of the prayer, and that is what is sought from us ultimately. So if we are, for whatever reason, not able to do the full prostrations, or even if we are unable to stand, bow, and prostrate, if we're just praying in our hearts, whatever it may be, the point there is not the forehead on the ground. The point ultimately is the humility that it produces. So, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So, if I'll just read one last thing. So, exert yourself such that you bring your heart back to the prayer, in order that you are not heedless in it from beginning to end. So may Allah give us tawfiq, may Allah give us success in imbuing our prayers from the first takbir, from the beginning to the end, and even the prerequisites before, that our hearts are imbued with the remembrance of Allah, with the love of Allah, with the humility before Allah, with submission to Allah. May Allah give us tawfiq in that. May Ramadan, the last few days of Ramadan, be a time to realize that in our prayers, to purify ourselves of base traits and adorn ourselves with meritorious traits through the power that fasting gives us. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. I'm sorry for going a little bit late. Again, I wanted to make sure I covered all the main details we'd set out to cover. It's been an honor. I hope to see you again, whether this week or another time, inshallah. And as always, if you're watching, please do drop a line someday and let me know if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, reflections. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdul Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Cuddler, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا صرفت أبصارهم تلقاء أصحاب النار قالوا ربنا لا تجعلنا مع القوم الظالمين ونادى أصحاب الأعراف رجالا يعرفونهم بسيماهم قالوا ما أغنى عنكم جمعكم وما كنتم تستكبرون هؤلاء الذين أقسمتم لا ينالهم الله برحمة ادخلوا الجنة لا خوف عليكم ولا أنتم تحزنون ونادى أصحاب النار أصحاب الجنة أن أفيضوا علينا من الماء أو مما رزقكم الله قالوا إن الله حرمهما على الكافرين الذين اتخذوا دينهم لهوا ولعبا وغرتهم الحياة الدنيا فاليوم ننساهم كما نسوا لقاء يومهم هذا وما كانوا بآياتنا يجحدون ولقد جئناهم بكتاب فصلناه على علم هدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون هل ينظرون إلا تأويله يوم يأتي تأويله يقول الذين نسوه من قبل قد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق فهل لنا من شفعاء فيشفعوا لنا أو نرد فنعمل غير الذي كنا نعمل قد خسروا أنفسهم وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش يغشي الليل النهار يطلبه حثيثا والشمس والقمر والنجوم مسخرات بأمره ألا له الخلق والأمر تبارك الله رب العالمين. تبارك الله رب العالمين. ادعوا ربكم تضرعا وخفية إنه لا يحب المعتدين. ولا تفسدوا في الأرض بعد إصلاحها وادعوه خوفا وطمعا إن رحمة الله قريب من المحسنين. وهو الذي يرسل الرياح بشرا بين يدي رحمته حتى إذا أقلت سحابا ثقالا سقناه لبلد ميت فأنزلنا به الماء فأخرجنا به من كل الثمرات كذلك نخرج الموتى لعلكم تذكرون. والبلد الطيب يخرج نباته بإذن ربه والذي خبث لا يخرج إلا نكدا كذلك نصرف الآيات لقوم يشكرون. لقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه فقال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم. قال الملأ من قومه إنا لنراك في ضلال مبين. قال يا قوم ليس بي ضلالة ولكني رسول من رب العالمين. أبلغكم رسالات ربي وأنصح لكم وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. أوعجبتم أن جاءكم ذكر من ربكم على رجل منكم لينذركم ولتتقوا ولعلكم ترحمون. فكذبوه فأنجيناه والذين معه في الفلك وأغرقنا الذين كذبوا بآياتنا إنهم كانوا قوما عمين. وإلى عاد أخاهم هودا قال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره أفلا تتقون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض مما يأكل الناس مما يأكل الناس والأنعام حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها أتاها أمرنا ليلا أو نهارا فجعلناها حصيدا كأن لم تغن بالأمس كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يتفكرون والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم للذين أحسنوا الحسنى وزيادة ولا يرهق وجوههم قتر ولا ذلة أولئك أصحاب الجنة هم فيها خالدون والذين كسبوا السيئات جزاء سيئة بمثلها وتركهم ذلة ما لهم من الله من عاصم كأنما أغشيت وجوههم قطعا من الليل مظلما أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون ويوم نحشرهم جميعا ثم نقول للذين أشركوا مكانكم أنتم وشركاؤكم فزيلنا بينهم وقال شركاؤهم ما كنتم إيانا تعبدون فكفى بالله شهيدا بيننا وبينكم إن كنا عن عبادتكم لغافلين هنالك تبلو كل نفس ما أسلفت وردوا إلى الله مولاهم الحق وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون قل من يرزقكم من السماء والأرض أمن يملك السمع والأبصار ومن يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ومن يدبر الأمر فسيقولون الله فقل أفلا تتقون فذلكم الله ربكم الحق فماذا بعد الحق إلا الضلال فأنى تصرفون كذلك حقت كلمة ربك على الذين فسقوا أنهم لا يؤمنون قل هل من شركائكم من يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده قل الله يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده فأنى تؤفكون قل هل من شركائكم من يهدي إلى الحق قل الله يهدي للحق أفمن يهدي إلى الحق أحق أن يتبع أمن لا يهدي إلا أن يهدى فما لكم كيف تحكمون وما يتبع أكثرهم إلا ظنا إن الظن لا يغني من الحق شيئا إن الله عليم بما يفعلون وما كان هذا القرآن أن يفترى من دون الله ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل الكتاب لا ريب فيه من رب العالمين أم يقولون افتراه قل فأتوا بسورة مثله وادعوا من استطعتم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين بل كذبوا بما لم يحيطوا بعلمه ولما يأتهم تأويله كذلك كذب الذين من قبلهم فانظر كيف كان عاقبة الظالمين ومنهم من يؤمن به ومنهم من لا يؤمن به وربك أعلم بالمفسدين وإن كذبوك فقل لي عملي ولكم عملكم أنتم بريئون مما أعمل وأنا بريء مما تعملون ومنهم من يستمعون إليك أفأنت تسمع الصم ولو كانوا لا يعقلون ومنهم من ينظر إليك أفأنت تهدي العمي ولو كانوا لا يبصرون إن الله لا يظلم الناس شيئا ولكن الناس أنفسهم يظلمون ويوم يحشرهم كأن لم يلبثوا إلا ساعة من النهار يتعارفون بينهم قد خسر الذين كذبوا بلقاء الله وما كانوا مهتدين وإما نرينك بعض الذي نعدهم أو نتوفينك فإلينا مرجعهم ثم الله شهيد على ما يفعلون ولكل أمة رسول فإذا جاء رسولهم قضي بينهم بالقسط وهم لا يظلمون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل لا أملك لنفسي ضرا ولا نفعا إلا ما شاء الله لكل أمة أجل إذا جاء أجلهم فلا يستأخرون ساعة ولا يستقدمون قل أرأيتم إن أتاكم عذابه بياتا أو نهارا ماذا يستعجل منه المجرمون ثم إذا ما وقع آمنتم به الآن وقد كنتم به تستعجلون ثم قيل للذين ظلموا ذوقوا عذاب الخلد هل تجزون إلا بما كنتم تكسبون ويستنبئونك أحق هو قل إي وربي إنه لحق وما أنتم بمعجزين صدق الله العظيم.